So what is the experience when we try something new? We all try to avoid something in life, and that is frustration. Not being able in control of a situation. Just like me trying to film outside my studio for the first time, trying to get the framing right, be in focus. And we all have experienced this feeling. We all have tried to learn how to ride a bike, play an instrument, or learn a language. Frustration is everywhere throughout our lives, if we want it or not. So we might not know the answers, especially in school and university, to all these standardized tests. We are told as a kid and teenager that there is only one perfect solution, and we have to find it every time. We might not know the answer, and then we have spent years and years trying to find out what other people thought about the world, replicating concepts, models, and ideologies. What happens is that all our art mind falls asleep for a few years. So it sleeps. Later in life, we might suddenly wake up in a meeting and our boss or client is asking us to think outside the box. So we have to be creative in a split second. We have to solve complex problems. We have to be the smart person in the room. So we are feeling stuck and overwhelmed because we didn't learn to be creative and innovative. But now we should be some sort of a fabulous Da Vinci or some other master and come up with the greatest idea ever in a meeting, reading down a PowerPoint presentation. So, but why would this kind of artistic mind or the art mind help us in our lives? Well, we need to agree to disagree to find new pathways and solutions in how we are doing things. So, the only thing that holds us back to give it a try is, again, frustration or the fear of it. We know exactly there's frustration waiting outside the studio, waiting outside our comfort zone. We stay in our safe place, and that is actually fine, yes, most of the time. Because we have learned that following the narrative and being a yes-sayer to everything helped us to avoid conflict. And we also know that in many situations avoiding conflict will help our careers. But we also know that it never gave us any satisfaction, but keep our maybe wild ideas to ourselves. But this is not good, not for us and not for everyone else, because now we have to handle a well-researched effect called groupthink that leads to weaker decisions caused by compromise-orientated solution finding. What does that even mean? Those weaker decisions could be avoided if everyone contributed with the full potential of an active art mind. But because we think we disagree, we risk our reputation that we have used a lifetime to build up. We tend to never think out loud. And that is a problem, not only for ourselves, but for the contribution we could potentially give to the world. We limit the potential of our shared creative power that way. And we always stay inside the boundaries of our own mind. And it is us, not the world, who is putting up those boundaries. But how can art help with these complex problems, you might ask, and how can we break up the borders and the walls in our heads? Do we need to wait for sudden inspiration, the lightning thought, or can we train our minds to be more artistic, confident in finding solutions to complex problems? There is art and beauty everywhere. You might know this quote. But what has that to do with developing an art mind? When we look at the world and our reality, we converge a very dynamic environment to concepts and how things look like and how they should be. So we might say today there are clouds in the sky. So we are limiting our mind to compress nature's beauty to a simple concept while overlooking all the details. When we think in a diverging way, we might say, oh, did you see the elephant in the clouds before? But we never say something like this. And why? Because we think it's considered childish or irrational. It all sounds too absurd, too crazy, too irrelevant. The problem with this situation is that our mind becomes limited and doesn't use its full potential when we are only think converging while suppressing diverging thoughts, larger thoughts and more crazy ideas. But we need to use those so-called crazy ideas to cross the borders inside our minds, from what we know to what we haven't yet thought about. We need to invest in artistic thinking and practice art to train our mind to accept uncertainty and mistakes. We need to let ourselves enjoy the ensemble of things instead of focusing on singular parts with imperfection. The same counts for our concepts. We need to be able to make fresh associations of ideas, extraction and combination of methods, and application of those new principles to areas where they have never been applied before. So it's important to be fluent in looking for improvements and alternatives, not for the perfect and correct answer, always. When you think with your art mind, there's no perfect solution because you're looking for something someone has never thought before. It's like you landed on an unknown planet, totally undiscovered territory. And it is extremely difficult to value at that point any of those new ideas. Yeah, because who are we? We think we cannot be inventors of new ideas. Someone needs to have had that thought before, you might think. If it is that simple, everyone surely knows about it already. So who are you coming up with a new idea, reframing in the video? So these are all thoughts that destroy your creativity and our day-to-day reality. And yes, it surely helps to stay within the group. Many workplaces are encouraging such behavior while asking to think innovatively. You just want to upset your team or boss and be the troublemaker or non-believer. So I'm finished with my PowerPoint presentation, and what you just experienced is like most of stuff what we see now, including me, as we come into a kind of presentation or where you are in front of the camera, you're in the spotlight, and there we tend to become very robotic, even though the content what we try to get over to the other person or the audience is somehow being crypted by all these concepts where we think like, oh, we have to talk like this, we need to use these kind of words to be trusted by the audience, and have like the more difficult words you use, the better it is, and so on, you know. And there we are now, and that's the same what we have now in art. Art became also very complex. You need to read the whole biography of somebody before you even understand, or you are even allowed to look at a painting and criticize it and say, oh, I like it, or you don't like it, and so on. That's what happens at the moment in contemporary art. But contemporary art overall was never like this. It was more like a common thing, a community thing. Everybody would do it. Everybody would do it in coherence with everybody. So it's not like you do art for a specific audience. You don't do it for an art market or collectors or museums or art critics. No, you first of all, you do it for yourself, and then you do it for your inner circle. And we need to try to get art back into this inner circle of being something like a tool for the community, also for yourself, which is a lot more than we consider art at the moment. Being a luxury good, and something only what so-called artists are allowed to do. And I think there are so many more applications for art, and to have the stand or the starting point from the whole discussion I talked about now, frustration. So even though I staged this now, I still feel frustrated because I could have done it a lot better. I could have done it with a teleprompter, talking directly to the camera all the time. So we are being trained always to find a perfect solution, always to be the smart person. Sorry, you know, always not having to clear your throat, always being on top on things. But problem is that our mind has been trained by school and university to be very limited in the options, because what we believe in is to have a way of finding a perfect solution to a problem, a new idea, is very reductionistic. That means like, oh, that was a special word. So that means like from a lot of things, you take the bad things off, and in the end you have the perfect solution. But in a dynamic and complex world, you need to have a phase of thinking that's the diverge phase, where your thoughts go wild. And after that you have a converge phase. But we start directly with the converge phase instead of letting ourselves grow in each kind of directions. Just like trees, they try to find new ways. But we are being trained to think one way and one way to the perfect solution. So what we can do with art and making art is giving our brain and mind, first of all, this playground where you are free and there can happen mistakes, and you're gonna see in the videos you're gonna watch later that you can accept so-called mistakes, something which is not perfectly in the center. But in the meantime, sometimes it's even nice to have a perspective like this on things. Don't you agree? So just in this visual example, I try to explain you what you will realize later in the course, where you accept mistakes and don't name them as mistakes first of all. You just see them as options to go further, because you can always erase mistakes by learning from them. And I think the way I structured this course is to go really fast in some steps, but taking time for this reconsideration if we are still on the right path. Because the following the process or embrace the process, as we learned, is a kind of method where you don't get afraid. You don't feel like, oh yeah, now I did a big mistake, I messed up the painting. I'm gonna say, like, sometimes I messed up the painting because I make jokes about this, but in real life, in our work life, we are very afraid to do even singular minimum mistakes. So then we need to switch in a certain moment, just like the example in the PowerPoint, when the boss comes in and asks us for like cool ideas, great ideas. So our brain has difficulties to switch there. You see? So because we don't need it normally in the workplace most of the time, unfortunately. So what can we do in our private time, or when you have a good company, maybe they're going to hire guys like me to paint together with you, because what happens, you get a very fast success, and a fast creative success, because you manipulate something which is outside of your reductionistic, very rational thinking part of the brain. So what happens there, since you get over your fear in your safe space, playground, painting room, your brain learns to accept mistakes, and then you can transfer this to your work life, also sometimes private life, also there are complex problems. And your mind is then turning into this ArtMind, how I named it, which gives a balance to the rational mind, and you become more, your frustration goes down, interestingly, because also your level on that point where you want to give up is a lot higher, because sometimes in some paintings you will think like, oh my God, I ruined the painting. All the material has to go to the trash. It's horrible. I spent all this money, or maybe little money. It depends on how much material, but still you have this loss, because you also invested so much time in it, cutting out the stencil, concepting the painting, getting ready, getting over this blank canvas problem, and then you are at a certain level, then you take the wrong decision and you messed up the painting. But the way you paint in this course, I will show you methods where you can either reword the mistake, go one step back, so overpaint it with white sometimes, or to integrate it in the next evolution of your painting. And the more you do this, your brain becomes a lot more confident in conflict situations where you need to overcome something, and then you become more, how can I say, you're more rooted in yourself, because maybe it can even happen that in your breaks between your important meetings or your important presentation, you think sometimes about the painting at home or in your studio, and you think like, should I maybe add the blue, or should I add the green, or maybe what about stripes, or this and that, or maybe what kind of frame should it be? So your brain goes some few minutes and milliseconds back to this safe creative space. So then you're being confronted with rational problems, but you don't see them as rational problems trying to find the perfect solution. No, your brain interconnects these two parts, areas, ways of thinking together, and it helps each other. So the funny thing is, you become more mistake acceptant in your workspace before the mistake happens, because you already think about all the dimensions it could have, because your brain is taking a serious problem as a playful problem. So you can learn what you learned at painting and apply it to your workplace. And the interesting thing is, there's a vice versa effect as well. So the more you apply the art to your work and private life, the more structured, for example, your art space will get as well. So you see there's a straight and strong interlink between the both. And what I try to do with this course is giving you the fastest step by step to have really how can I say, like a quick success, even though it sounds like, oh yeah, take this course 2, 3, 4 days, blah blah blah, you become an artist. No, it's a shortcut a little bit, but it's a starting point, and you will have like creative and visual effects which will stimulate your brain in your visual cortex a lot faster, and that makes you feel happy, more confident, and you will continue and do more because you have this like very fast effects and fast success. And that's why I primarily use the spray can and stencils, because there's already the color and the form, and the application is so fast, so it's a little bit faster than starting to paint in oil, which is also a very nice activity. But with stencil paint and this kind of method, you are gonna be a lot faster, and within like after oil during this course, after the first time we're gonna paint, you will already have this kind of success feeling. But before that, we need to train first of all your hands and so on. So we are gonna start with stretching a canvas, building your frame, and then step by step making our way to your final series of paintings. And yeah, we're gonna go in depth in some parts which I think are important, but I always try to see this course as very open. So I kind of give you guidelines here and there, ideas, also the stencils you can use on your own, so you don't start there also from zero. But I'm also gonna include the whole discussion about light and shadow. So we are already going into the introduction of the course, but I hope you like this video and the overall a little meta perspective on things, and have a lot of fun with the course. And maybe there's going to be another introduction, but here I am, not frustrated anymore to do the first shot like this outside on my own.